Good evening, everybody. Today we are blessed with the presence of a dear friend of mine, Jose Antonio Valencia. Jose Antonio is a person that has gone through many experiences and is well equipped to teach us how to inject perspective and balance into our daily lives. He has been in contact with very influential people and has helped those very influential people influence other people in the right fashion. Welcome, Jose Antonio.
Thank you so much, my dear friend. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
No, the pleasure is mine. Tell us, what have you been up to these days in the world of entertainment, in the world of business, in the world of life in general?
Well, that's a broad, big question, my dear friend, but basically, in a nutshell, as you well know, I have been involved in media entertainment in different ways, television, magazines, music as well. But at the same time, I've always had this very personal calling, which is with life coaching. So I decided to blend both of them because I know the importance and the power of influence that media entertainment has nowadays. As you well know, TV, music, and movies are the single most influential things that exist in this world right now. And at the same time, the content is getting worse and worse by the minute. So I received that calling of helping the people that are in front of the stage and backstage so they can focus and they can see their platform as stars or celebrities as a different way to give back to humanity and use their talents in a more social and human way.
No, and that's so important. Sometimes we set ourselves up as judges and we say, well, this is such a person is not doing the right thing on stage. But what we should be asking really is who is behind that celebrity that is displaying that content on stage that is not being, beneficial unto society at large. We see people like Miley Cyrus on stage doing things that are unbecoming in nature and that are not in correspondence with the inner and outer beauty that God has given such people. What would you say to the ones that are behind the scenes, influencing and programming and directing what goes on stage with these great talents that we have in the United States?
Wow, that is a very powerful question because there's a lot of things they have to do, but they just have to start with something very simple. They have to have their fans in their heart and not in their pockets. They have to be stars that care more about the light they can be instead of the bling they can get.
That's powerful.
Not everything that shines is gold.
Most
right?
certainly.
So there are stars that can actually shine in a stage, but just a few can illuminate in the hearts. So if the people, if the artists themselves and the team behind them realize the power of influence that they have in their audiences and in their fans, they will eventually and hopefully change their mindset and don't care just about ratings, about how many Grammys, Oscars, VMAs, records you sell, or how many tickets for the movie.
But let me ask you, Jose Antonio, because sometimes, regrettably so, what we see on the screen are the worst things, because those are the things that sell. Sex and, showing too much of what you shouldn't show at all, and, lies and adultery and fornication. That's what, they put on the screen, because that sells. But I would venture to say that there are many celebrities out there that are doing what they are supposed to be doing with their influence and power, which is giving back to society. Do you know any of those celebrities that you would like to, maybe not name their names, but tell us about their story?
Look, there's a bunch of people, and I could talk about them, for hours. There's all the Bono from U2, the Mark Wahlbergs, Denzel Washington, there's the Tim Tebows, there's a lot of people that are really using their platform of celebrity to give back to humanity. But I want to, now that you mention it, I want to talk to you about a very newcomer, a newcomer in the world of show business. Now that you mentioned Miley Cyrus, because for example, Miley, we have talked about, besides the whole twerking thing, the thing that really annoys me the most is that she uses lyrics that kind of like motivate the use of Molly, which is a form of ecstasy. So while they are trying to use, all these vulgar kind of presentations and raunchy presentations and profanity just to sell more, nudity in her new video and stuff like that. At the same time that this was happening, there's this guy called Fred Stubbo from Illinois. He's like a 90-something-year-old man. His story, in a nutshell, is like this. His wife, Lorraine, passed away recently. I believe it was like April of this year. So he decided to write a song. He heard on the radio a contest, and he submitted some lyrics. The people who received it, which was a production studio, were so touched by his story that they decided to produce the song. Basically, this 96-year-old man, probably, that is not a songwriter, is not a professional musician, wrote lyrics from his heart. And he wrote a song called Oh Sweet Lorraine. In a matter of weeks, this song went viral, and it was in the top 10 chart of iTunes downloads.
Wow.
So they were, mixing and rubbing elbows with all the Gagas, all the Robin Thicke's, all the Miley Cyrus, without doing all the vulgarity, all the raunchy presentations.
There is a great message in that story, and that is the fact that people are not necessarily moved when celebrities try to convey ideas from mind to mind or from hormones to hormones. But what really makes a difference is when people do things and speak out of their hearts. We need communicators like that in this day and age. We need celebrities that portray their talent in a way that is true, not superficially, but true at heart. With that message, we'll go to a brief pause, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Business Intelligence. And today we are speaking with a very intelligent man, a man that knows that your talent can take you only as far as your character can maintain you. Tell us about that principle.
Jonathan, you know that the term coaching really was born really in the 80s, outside from the athletic and sports field. As a matter of fact, one of the pioneers and the biggest representatives of coaching, by some called the father of coaching, is Thomas Leonard. Thomas Leonard was a financial advisor. What he realized was something really important, that his clients, what they were needing the most was actually to find a way to put together their resources, their creativity, their plans, and their potential, and take them into practice in a sustainable and constant way without losing the vision, the commitment, and the focus with how they really wanted to live their lives in all different levels. So it's pretty simple. Coaching helps you organize your mind, discover your true creative potential, develop the action plans, and walk you through the journey while you're accomplishing small daily goals that will lead you eventually to the big picture and to the big dream.
So if I have a T-bone steak, I cannot eat it in one mouthful. I have to slice it and dice it in bite-sized chunks that I can chew and properly digest. Is that what you're telling me?
That's right. We have to do things in a fashion, in an orderly manner. Success doesn't happen overnight. And that's a problem that we have nowadays. People have this microwave mentality that they expect things to happen just overnight. And that dreams are not just like that. Dreams are not a quick win. You have to really work for it in a good way, through plans, through focus, through vision. But if you accomplish a dream quick, that means that the dream was not big enough.
Certainly. Well, at the beginning of the program, you were talking about glitter and the ability to shine, and you articulated that well-known phrase that we know, that not everything that shines is gold. But there was a man in the 1950s and 1960s that asked himself why God had placed him in that day and age where there was so much discrimination and so much persecution, particularly against African Americans. And the man that I'm referring to is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He says that one day he woke up and he asked these questions, and he looked to the skies finding or trying to find an answer. But then as he went through the day and thought about the question and didn't find a proper answer, he went into the evening and looked at the skies again, and he saw the stars. They are shining. And as he surveyed the stars, he realized that only when it is dark enough can we see the stars. During daylight, the stars were there, but they were not shining. But when it became dark enough, there they were, shining and letting their light add value to the beholder and inspire the beholder. And I think that is what we are called to do in this day and age when situations are rather dark. We ought to decide to shine and not whine. Is that correct?
Totally true. You know, we are created as one original. Why do we have to live trying to be a copy? We all have our own natural gifts and talents. We sometimes confuse them with opportunities and possibilities. And that's a big problem because people tend to live a very linear kind of life. You know, you can actually develop very good skills and abilities, but that doesn't mean that those are your passions and that is your calling. Once you really know who you are, then you can actually know what you want to do. And that's when you start receiving, you know, vision and a calling of how you can use that power to ignite your light and make it shine.
Beautiful. You just pointed out something very important. There is a fundamental difference between competence and excellence. Your area of competence is not necessarily your area of excellence. And that's why we have to have our calling and our areas of excellence very well defined as early as possible, because if not, we're merely led by opportunities. We have to be sensible to opportunities, but not led by opportunities. We have to be led by a sense of calling, by a sense of purpose, and follow the opportunities that are in perfect correspondence with our calling, with our areas of excellence. I'm not saying that you might not pursue an opportunity that is not in tune with your talents at some point in your life. You know, some of us have to work at fast food restaurants at some point in our lives as we're going through college or whatnot. But those are stepping stone opportunities, not destination opportunities. And that's where the core difference is. We have to clearly differentiate between competence and excellence, between stepping stone opportunities and destination opportunities.
It's all about working your land.
No, certainly.
It's the law of the harvest, you know. You have to plant the seed, you know, you have to prepare the land, plant the seed, plow the ground, take care of the land, and eventually, you know, reap the harvest. But working your land is working in whatever is in front of you right now.
Most certainly.
You know that sometimes things might not be as you want to be, but at least you have to be thankful that they're not how they used to be.
Most certainly.
Your dream doesn't come in a very predictable way. It will not get accomplished in a predictable way. As you said, sometimes we have to go through things that probably we never expected or we didn't want it. But that thing is developing our character.
Most certainly.
You know that we have to go sometimes through trials and tribulations to really know what are we made of and where do we want to go.
Of course. And I like what you just mentioned, that we have to work with what we are facing now. Somebody defined winning, or the word win, as an acronym that stands for the following: what's important now? And that is a question that I want to put before you in this hour. What's important now? Do you want to win? Focus on WIN. What's important now? Think about the future. Think about the past. But let 90% of your strength and of your intention be in the present. You see, life, I think you would agree with this, that if we want to succeed in life, we have to acknowledge the difference in size between the rearview mirror and the windshield. The windshield is so much bigger than the rearview mirror, but sometimes we're stuck in the past and we are looking at the rearview mirror most of the time. And then we have a big sized truck coming in the opposite direction, and since we're looking at the rearview mirror, we collapse. The windshield is so much bigger. Let us look forward rather than backwards. We have to look backwards sometimes for perspective, right? And remember that caveat in the rearview mirror that says, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. But the windshield is so much bigger.
That's right, that's right. You know what's a sad fact? That actually only about 3% of the world's population know exactly who they are, what they want in their lives. They can put it into writing and they can actually accomplish it.
Only 3%?
Only 3% are the ones that actually can put it into writing and actually accomplish it.
Wow.
That means that the other 97% of us, either we kind of know what we want, but we're still kind of like struggling, but getting there, but the vast majority, they don't know really who they even are.
So 3% is about 21 million?
Yeah, out of the 6.8 billion that in this world.
Incredible.
It's really sad. That's why people don't know who they are. And that's why they live this frustrated life where they hate Mondays, they love Fridays, and they are so scared to change. You know, fear and doubt has always been the most powerful tools we have to fight against with. Fear and doubt is always there. But also in these days where we have information overdose, people are trying to, you know, all over the place, trying to do 1,000 things at the same time. So they cannot focus. They don't know where they are. If you ask a group of people, who are you? 8 out of 10 will reply with a resume. This is what I studied and this is what I do.
So we're not human doings. We're not human doings, people. Our value is not defined by what we do or what we have. It's defined by who we are. We have intrinsic value. But some people define their value in accordance with what they do. And they fail, and as they fail, they consider themselves failures.
That's right.
But we should depart from our beinghood. And if we depart from our beinghood, then we're going to be free to pursue success. Because in the pursuit of success, it is 100% sure that we will experience failure.
You know what? Albert Einstein said it. Try not to be a man of success. Try to be a man of value.
I love that. I wholeheartedly embrace it. I wholeheartedly embrace it. And you mentioned fear. Franklin D. Roosevelt said on one occasion, well, on the occasion of the Great Depression in the 1930s, that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Do you agree with that statement?
And that is in us. Fear is in us. We are the ones who can fight it. We are the ones who can break the mold, the paradigms. You know, we don't have to get used to do what we think we should do. We should actually embrace and try to pursue what we want and really love to do.
I know you are a man of spiritual sensibilities, and I'm going to pose a very interesting question before you. If we look at the scriptures, it says throughout that we should fear God. What do you have to say about that?
I think that true wisdom, as Solomon said it, starts with fear. We are motivated basically by two things in life, pain or pleasure. By either one of these two, we will motivate ourselves to actually do things or to change. Like imagine a horse in front of you. You can put a carrot in the front or you can put a whip in the butt, but the animal's gonna move one way or the other, pain or pleasure. In our case, it's the same thing. The problem is that we usually move more by pain. We wait until the pain has to be so strong that we actually need to make a change in our lives. So that's why we have to walk by faith and not by sight.
I see.
We have to have a vision and a dream, and then let the love and the fear of God keep us in that path.
Most certainly.
Because at the same time that we have blessings, grace, forgiveness, wisdom to keep us moving on forward, to keep us going through the trials and tribulations, we also need the fear in order not to get derailed into the wrong path. Because a person without a clear vision, without a clear motivation, is more vulnerable to follow into the wrong paths.
I see. And I appreciate that, your forthcoming spirit in sharing that principle. Now, I read a book by C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity, and I think it is there that he points out the fact that fear is not necessarily fear in the sense of being afraid, but in the sense of taking into account. When I was a child, I had to leave my father's presence when I went to school, when I went out to play with friends. But as I engaged in my activities outside of my father's presence, I took him into account. Yes? And I was mindful of the rules and the regulations that he had set forth for my behavior. So as I went about having fun with my friends, I was mindful of the rules and regulations set forth by the head of my household. So is that in correspondence with the nature of fear of God, if you will? Yes?
Sure thing, Jonathan. You know, one thing that I fear a lot, you know what it is? It's kind of awkward. It's not only about not doing the things that I know are wrong, but I have sometimes more fear about not doing the right things that I'm supposed to do in this life. So I totally agree with you, Jonathan. As a matter of fact, let me tell you a story that is kind of funny, kind of awkward. I fear not only the things that I could do wrong, but I sometimes fear more the right things that I'm supposed to do and I don't accomplish.
That's deep.
What does this mean? You are a man of faith, as I am, and there's a verse in the Bible that I really like, which is Luke 14:28. And basically it states that to whom much has been given, much will be required.
Correct.
So that means that in this world, we're not only going to be judged by the wrongs, but by the rights that we didn't do.
Most certainly. So what we should take from that is that we have transgressions of omission, but just as we have transgressions of omission, we have transgressions of commission. Yes? So when we have in our power the ability to do good, let us do it. So that means that we can not only transgress by omission, but also by commission. Therefore, when we have in our power the ability to do good, we must do it. And do it now. Remember that principle of winning? WIN. What's important now? If it's in your capacity to do good now, do it without giving it much thought, because there's not so much to think about when it comes to lending a hand to those in need. You want to win? Focus on what's important now, and the rest will be just added onto you.
That's right, because, you know, after all, we are here in this world to be servants. You know, when people put and plant in their heart, how can they help first instead of how can they gain? It's the things change. It's a whole different perspective. Remember, you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So we have to really put the needs and the necessities of other people first, because we are all born with, you know, natural talents and gifts, but those gifts are meant for us to serve other people. Everything else will be added to our lives.
Most certainly. And something that we should mention is that that ability to do good and to give does not come naturally, because we are also selfish in nature. And just consider the fact that you don't have to teach your children to say the truth. You have to teach them not to lie. In the same manner, we have to exercise our ability to give, our ability to think about other people and their needs and their wants and their aspirations. And as we exercise it, as we are intentional about it on a daily basis, then it will come naturally. But it takes time. And with that thought, I think we have concluded our program. Do you have anything to add before we say goodbye to our wonderful audience?
You know, I think that it's very simple. You know, we can do and achieve basically everything that we want to do in our lives, just as long as we know what we want, why do we want it, and what are we going to do with it. Regardless of whatever spiritual belief you have. If you believe in God, universe, energy, love and attraction, Kabbalah, whatever, the same principle is always there. Just put the needs of someone else before yours, and everything else will be added to your life after that.
Most certainly. And as we exercise our belief, I think that at the end of the day, when we put that in practice, we're going to acknowledge that the fact that there is a creation means that perhaps there is a creator. Is that too far-fetched to think?
Not at all.
Not at all. So remember, what you believe in the inside, you achieve in the outside, because thoughts become things. So think on the bright side, my good friends, and have a great life. See you next time.